Good morning, everybody. He's back in the headlines, back in the news for all the wrong reasons. And moments ago, President Trump responded. First, the former FBI Director James Comey accused of posting an online threat against the president, and the president giving his first reaction to Fox News. So that's where we begin today. We got questions. We'll get to them now. I'm Bill Hemmer. Welcome to Friday. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. This is not the story I thought we would be covering on this Friday. So much has happened this week, but here's what happened last night. So Comey posted this picture on Instagram, and he wrote, "Cool shell formation on my beach walk." So the shells read 8647. 86 is slang for get rid of, and President Trump is, of course, the 47th president of the United States.
So obviously not sitting well with the White House, especially in light of the president surviving 2 attempts on his life. Comey deleted the post. He took it down. He says he did not realize that some people associate the number 86 with violence. Who knew, right? From a former FBI director. So last hour overseas with Bret Baier, President Trump says he ain't buying it.
Exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country has become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he did.
Well, he apologized because he was hit. Look, he's a very bad.
What do you want to see happen?
He is a.
What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this: I think it's a terrible thing, and when you add his history to that. If he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency. But I'm going to let them make that decision.
Katie Pavlich and Noah Rothman are on deck. But first, let's go to Rich Edson. He's in Washington, D.C. Hi, Rich. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Dana. Well, this isn't over for the former FBI director. A source with the United States Secret Service says officials will send agents to interview James Comey about this Instagram post. The director of national intelligence says the feds should arrest Comey.
The rule of law says people like him who issue direct threats against the President of the United States, essentially issuing a call to assassinate him, must be held accountable under the law.
Do you believe Comey should be in jail?
I do. I'm very concerned for the president's life. We've already seen assassination attempts. I'm very concerned for his life. And James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable.
Now, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff said it's deeply concerning to all of us being taken seriously. Yesterday, Comey shared on Instagram that post of what he called a shell formation on the beach, outlining the numbers 8647. 86 informally means to get rid of. If you've ever worked in a restaurant, you say 86 to strike an item from the menu. As for 47, this is for the 47th term for President Trump's 47th president, and one who has had 2 highly publicized attempts on his life last summer. Now, Comey deleted the post and then wrote, quote, "I posted a picture earlier of some shells I saw on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I didn't realize some folks associated those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down." In his first term, President Trump fired Comey as FBI director. Comey had opened an investigation into the 2016 Trump campaign's Russian contacts. The White House said Trump fired Comey because he mishandled the investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server. Comey then wrote a book accusing Trump of unethical behavior. Dana, Bill, back to you.
All right, thank you so much.
So there's a lot to chew on here. We'll say hey to Katie and Noah, and good morning to both of you on a Friday morning. As Dana said, I didn't think we'd be covering this today, but here we is. All right. In January of 2024, op-ed James Comey said we should always worry about political violence, especially when violent rhetoric and behavior are embraced, even celebrated by one of our political parties and its leader. Noah, I don't know how you feel about it. Was he trying to joke, or was he trying to take a side shot, or was he just looking for attention?
I don't know. It's hard to put James Comey on the couch. I suspect the U.S. Secret Service will take a visit to him and gauge his mental state. I suspect they'll find what we all can see with our own eyes, a delusional old narcissist who spends way too much time attempting to curry favor online with the people he thinks are the cool kids. I suspect this is about as genuine a threat as the time Donald Trump said Liz Cheney had not faced fire in combat, and everybody pretended as though he had called for her to face a firing squad. That sort of scene-chewing theatrics is really good for your engagement, and I suspect that's exactly what James Comey was after, because that's what he's always after, attention. That being said, the online forums I'm sure he haunts are really into this sort of thing. They do want to see violence. They are impressionable.
Just
are
to that
encourageable.
point, his explanation was, I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence.
Well, I don't.
Well,
I certainly didn't.
86?
But that doesn't. Well, to me, that's getting something off a menu. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's interpreted that way to everybody. And we are all responsible for what comes out of our mouths and the inadvertent consequences that could result from them. Everybody needs to take the temperature down. James Comey knows that, and he should have behaved more responsibly. All of us are responsible for this environment, and our responsibility is to keep it civil, calm, and measured.
Food servers everywhere know exactly what it means, but you would imagine, as President Trump said, that because it is used more colloquially in the world, that the former FBI director would have known it too. I just want to point out, we've looked for any sort of Democrat reaction. We don't have it yet.
Oh,
there is none.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, the former FBI director should know about this or did know about what the meaning of this was. And for him to then issue this weird apology and claim that he knew it was a political message but didn't know that half of it meant violence. On the other hand, he says he just happened to be walking on the beach and found these shells
and he
in
says,
the shape of 8647. I mean,
and he says it's cool. So why would he? Why do you think that's a cool formation?
Right. So he's trying to get back into the attention economy.
Yeah.
As Noah said, he is a narcissist. However, for him to then, when he gets caught doing this in an environment that is deeply concerning in terms of the history of the president having 2 assassination attempts, one that would have taken his life within a millimeter of his ear, is absolutely disgusting. And it just goes to show again that James Comey's history of destroying the institution of the FBI, completely destroying the distrust Americans have in this institution they should be able to rely on for objective viewing of violent threats. And now he's going to deny that as the FBI director that he doesn't understand what these symbols of violence mean. And again, he just happened to be walking and you find this symbol in the sand. It's like saying a friend is asking.
They've gone out to question him. So this story's not over. We're going to hear what his explanation is for that, all right? Now, the resistance, I would say at the moment, is a small R. I think Democratic politicians have been trying to break through, I would say with little to no success thus far. But sometimes pop culture kind of leads the way. And Dana and I were talking about this yesterday, Springsteen's on tour, opened up the other night in Manchester in England, and it was clear that he wanted a message. Because on the floor, there's a teleprompter. And he was reading this, and this is the message, how it went the other night.
There's some very weird, strange, and dangerous going on out there right now. In America, they are persecuting people for using their right to free speech and voicing their dissent. They're rolling back historic civil rights legislation. They're abandoning our great allies and siding with dictators.
It sounds a little bit like 2017. No, I don't know how you read that, but I think those on the left love to hear this, by the way. This is like red meat for them. But I think performers like Springsteen have an opportunity to cut through in ways that our politicians in Washington, D.C. fail to. What do you think?
It's quite possible. It's certainly something that'll be resonant with the resistance crowd that you're describing. Aging hippies issuing political statements from the stage is something that I grew up with. I'm pretty comfortable with it. And our system can certainly absorb it. We don't criminalize that kind of speech. That being said, as I said previously, there is obviously a market on the left for direct street action. I think what was more illustrative of what we're going to see this summer was what happened in New Jersey in an ICE facility, Ras Baraka attempting to get himself arrested, in part because he wants to generate attention for himself because he's running in a primary for a statewide race. And if you think, and I think he made a smart calculation there, that he thinks he will generate traction with the voters he needs by making himself this sort of a target and by generating this sort of hostility, anxiety, and an air of violence. That's the sort of thing that does resonate with a small number of Democrats who punch way above their weight in their political
coalition. But it's small numbers of
Likely on
people
that.
vote in primaries.
Yeah, I just find Bruce Springsteen's bit old. This is something he's been doing for a very long time. These overwhelming, exaggerated messages of persecution in America while he's in Europe making this statement where they're putting people in prison for memes and hurting people's feelings on the internet. So the contrast of what's happening where he's standing and what's happening in the U.S. where you still have your First Amendment rights is quite interesting.
Like in England, if you post something online, you can get arrested.
You can get, if you pray in the wrong place silently, you can also get arrested. I mean, there's so many things you can do in Europe to get arrested for actually not speaking. So for him to say that the problem is here in America doesn't quite play out with the facts.
Which is exactly what J.D. Vance said in his speech to the Europeans.
Indeed.
Remember. All right, great to see you, Bo.
Happy Friday.
Yeah.
See you soon. Thank you, Noah.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.